I know this isn't how we normally start an owner-operator's day off, but what I needed to tell you ahead of time was when I edited this video, it's originally supposed to be the first of a 3-part video series on building a Viking lock. I have to get back on the road, so I'm not going to have time to complete the whole series, but I did want to put another video up. So what I'm going to do is label, although the video's been edited, as part 1 of 3. It's a good standalone video if you look at it from the aspect of we're going to braze metal in a coal forge. So that's what I want to do. It's a really neat process. I make sure you get to see the process happen. When I get back in town, I will pull this segment out of the video, repost it as part 1 of building the Viking lock, and then add part 2, followed by part 2, and then the part 3, or I may be able to make part 2 and 3 into one video. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get on with the video. And so, in the words of Rory May, let's do this. Welcome to another episode of an owner-operator's day off. We're out in my shop. Today we're going to turn a 3/4 inch piece of rebar into an ancient Viking lock. I went to my first blacksmith meeting over the weekend, and at the Quince River Blacksmiths Guild here in East Tennessee, and a great bunch of guys, and I believe it was Andrew demonstrated brazing in a forge, forge brazing in a coal fire using copper, and he did that on the barrel of this ancient Viking lock, and he also used it on the pin which holds it all together, this brazing technique. And I'm going to try and duplicate it just for fun. Looks like a neat project to do, and I'm going to see if I can duplicate it. Okay, so what we have here is the Viking lock that we're going to be making. We have a barrel which is going to be forge welded together at the seam. That's actually going to be brazed in a coal forge. I'm sorry. Then we have a latch pin here, which is depicted here. The latch pin, that's what I'm calling it. LATCH pin, and it has these little fingers on it. On the latch here, the end that comes down inside this barrel has a square hole in it, and essentially you slide this pin in. These fingers get compressed until they pass through that hole, then they expand back open again, and then your latch pin is locked in place, your latch is locked. Then only someone with the key, which essentially has this right here on this end, except it's going to have a smaller diameter square on it because this latch pin is tapered here. And what we're going to do, the way it unlocks, is you slide that key from this end. The key goes in on this open end, slides up, and as it slides up, it compresses those sprung fingers. So we will be doing forge brazing this seam where these springs meet the end of the latch pin. There'll be brazing done, forge brazing in the coal, and then here on this latch at the hinge, the way it comes back through and then lays on itself, and that area there is also brazed in a forge. I skipped the part where I flatten this out. My forging skills or techniques are atrocious. If you're a true blacksmith, probably offensive, but I love your trade and I really enjoy it, and hopefully as I progress I get better and my forms get more perfected. So what I've done is I don't have any plate steel. If I did, I wouldn't have wasted my time turning this into a spatula. But essentially what I've done is flattened out this 3/4 inch rebar. If I had to guess, probably a 1/16 of an inch thick. Smoothed it out the best I could, and then I ground the edges so I knew just how much material I have to work with width-wise. And now basically the next step I'm going to try and do it while it's still on this piece of rebar, is I'm going to roll this into the barrel form, and then we'll get on to brazing it. Hopefully the lighting conditions will be right and we'll be able to catch that copper braze, the metal, in the forge. It's going to be interesting. Check it out, see what happens. I'm not sure I have the tools to get this all the way around proper. And leaving it attached now is starting to hurt me. Told you, not pretty. Okay, so I just went ahead and took a cut-off wheel and cut it off there. Ugly. We'll file that off once we get this. When and if we get the shape of the cylinder, that's more and more getting me concerned, because I am running out of room with this big old hammer, and I don't have a smaller version of that. I've got this. This may do it. I don't know how it's dressed, but I guess I can take some of them edges off a little bit and it won't leave any marks. We'll try that, because that looks like it's going to be the only way we're going to be able to get it close to where we can bring it together. Well, it's coming together. I don't know if you can see it or not, but we're getting there. Let's see what we can get before we run out of heat. Pretty much out of heat, but look at that shape we're getting in there. Looks pretty good to me. Let's keep going. This is all an experiment for me, so I've never formed a cylinder before. Let's go ahead and get one side down lower than the other. There we go. Wash the snot out of it. So it'll be surface inside. Oh. I'm gonna go ahead and roll this on over top. Got a skosh of an overlap. Skosh is, I think it's Kentucky for just a hair. It's skosh is somewhere between a 16th and a 32nd, or maybe yeah, that's a skosh. We'll go with that. Old buddy of mine, Scott, knows what I'm talking about. He'll never watch the video, but we haven't spoken in a long time. Anyway, there we go. We got us an overlap in there. I am going to try flatten that out a little bit because it's ugly. Alright, I probably need more of an overlap than that, but I'm trying to see if you can even see it. But I think we're gonna go with that because this is for fun. All right, now we got a little better light. What we need now, here's our part. We need a piece of copper wire for brazing. We need to get some flux on there. I thought I had a roll of this. Now this here is 12-2. I didn't like how thin that copper looked, so this here's 12-2. It's the 20 amp for outlets and whatnot. I'm gonna go ahead. It looks like it's a little bigger. Well, it is. It's definitely a little larger diameter, and it looks like more like the diameter that was used in the demonstration. So now we've got us a length of 12-2. You also have the right tool to, or a better tool to bend that over. Make our little hook notch in there. See, this wire here looks a little beefier than that. The 12 gauge wire is a little beefier. I like that length. Well, here's a little tube part. Now, the one thing I did just sneak off and do was I went over to the bench and I've got a wire wheel, and I just ran it to where I was hoping the bristles were getting in there and cleaning that out. So there, I cheated. I did that off camera. Sorry, but it's way over there and the camera's way over here. Anyway, so let's go ahead, cut that off, leave a little extra. So there we go, our little pin. See if we're somewhat straight anyway. Alright, so back over to the fire. Now I'm going to move the equipment over there. We're going to set up for this. We're going to heat the part so that the flux will stick to it. Get it fluxed, put it back in the fire, let the flux get in there, pull it out of the fire. Then, like I was explaining before, we're going to sit this wire in there, place it back in the fire, and we're all going to be eyes on the part. We're going to watch that copper, because essentially what it's going to do is it'll heat up, and we couldn't see it in the demonstration at the forge, but the copper gets a sheen on it. As it melts, the surface starts melting, and then once it gets to that, reaches that critical temperature, it'll basically just disappear in front of our eyes and get sucked into that joint. So we'll try it and see. That's what's supposed to happen. Alright, I'm not sure if you can hear me with all this carrying on, but we're at the fire now, and I basically just raked the top of the coals off, and we're trying to bring our part up to heat so we can get some flux in there. Looks like it's coming up pretty quickly. GoPros do not have zoom on them. If you're wondering why I haven't zoomed in, they don't have a zoom function. Alright, so now I think we're hot enough to flux it. I'm going to go ahead and put some flux on it. Back in the fire, melt that flux. Get that all good and soaked in. Alright, I think we're ready to do this. To save time, I put the part in the fire myself. I'm trying to use my flashlight to shine the light down in there. really don't want to disturb it. Let's see. Uh-oh, losing the part. Alright, we're getting there. Hopefully we don't lose the part before we get there. Everything's sweating. Up and there it comes. That copper bead's melting right on up the part. Alright, I have to interrupt this video right here. There is no way I can make you guys sit through 15 minutes of me babbling on and my poor blacksmithing techniques only to miss what you've been waiting to see. Now, I'm not going to tell you whether or not we were successful with the brazing, but what I did do is go to the auto parts store this morning, picked up a piece of exhaust pipe, and made this for you. I haven't reviewed the footage yet to see if we caught it happen, but I went and took the part over to the wire brush to see if I could tell if we actually got it with all that crazy calamity that was going on, and we did. We actually got it. It was a success. Let's see if I've got something small in the corner. Yeah. Here we go. If you look down this seam, if the light's right, if you look down this seam, you can see it. It's full of copper. Now, when that part fell into the fire, most of the copper rolled down here and puddled up. But if you look down the inside, I'm actually watching the camera to see if you can see the inside. Let's see if I can get the lights over here a little more. You can see inside that part or not. Let's see, we can just keep moving it around a little bit. We'll get this image yet. But anyway, so here's the outside. You can clearly see the seam has been filled, the gap's been filled with copper, and we successfully brazed metal in a coal forge. Pretty cool, huh? Now we're going to move on to making the rest of the latch.